Hello, welcome to the news again. This time going from a different setup, and I'm hoping that it works. So the first thing to say is the fact that US are going to send foot soldiers in Syria, which is quite a crisis, but we'll move on from that because I don't want to talk too much about such terrible things. We've got a lot of other terrible things to talk about as well that are a bit worse. Decline in support of the Tea Party, which is quite a good thing, has happened over the last 5 years. In 2010, these stats were 32% among all voters, 63% among Republicans, and 52% among Republican leaners. This year there have been 17% among all voters, 42% among Republicans, and 23% among Republican leaners, which is quite a massive change. Hopefully that will help the Democrats win and Sanders win as well, because obviously that's the person that I'm going to be supporting. Germany have set out to send refugees back to Afghanistan. And this is not a good thing because there's still kind of a war-torn country that's called Afghanistan that you're trying to send refugees from Afghanistan back to. The point of refugees coming to Germany from Afghanistan is that Afghanistan is a terrible place to live in at the moment, and obviously it's partly due to the problem that Germany caused, which is the wars there. Obviously Germany is one of the head voices in NATO, and they're the people who did all the fighting there, mainly the NATO soldiers supported. Well, obviously NATO soldiers aren't in themselves a thing, but anyway. Jeb, also known as John Ellis Bush, obviously people have been calling him Jeb Bush, which is Bush, so I'll just refer to him as Bush from now on. Bush calls Rubio a man of no accomplishments who has never been in charge of anything larger than 24 people, which is quite a massive attack on somebody who's supposedly the front runner to a lot of people, such as Predicted.com, as I said last week. Clinton's newly found loyalty to the death penalty, or at least newly revealed, may put her at odds with Bernie yet again. Clinton's emails to Obama are being kept secret, which is quite contrary to what happens to Nixon during Watergate. Maybe it's a problem with Republicans versus Democrats, because the last Democrat to ask, well, not to ask, just to take their emails back, was the brother of John F. Kennedy. So, lorry driver in Glasgow has killed 10 people, supposedly. Like, the 10 people died, obviously, but it depends on whether he killed them or not. There was a trial coming up, but he's resigned before the trials happened. So the first major news item is on George Osborne, also known as Gideon, the Chancellor of the Exchequer in the United Kingdom. He's blaming the long commutes, high energy bills, and home ownership problem on the government not investing in infrastructure, which is quite a thing that a lot of people have been saying for quite a while who aren't George Osborne, the person who can actually invest in infrastructure. But maybe that's a good thing that he's saying that, but whether he actually delivers anything at all is yet to be seen. He's also going to take the newly seen EU reforms, which is somewhat Scandinavian, to Germany again, after having been taken last time by David Cameron, the actual Prime Minister of the country, and he was denied as well, so it's unlikely that these new deals will be allowed either. Jeremy Corbyn has set out that if Scotland wants socialism, it should vote for it, because obviously the Labour Party are now closer to Marxism and closer to left-wing than even the SNP, although the SNP are still quite left-wing and they are still quite brilliant. So it's unknown whether he will find new voters in the Scottish people, like old voters, if you think about it really, because they were Labour until they went to SNP. But anyway, for the 6th time is the quote this week from Jeremy Corbyn, because of the fact that he had to ask David Cameron the same question 6 times over tax credit cuts in Prime Minister's questions. Also, to do with tax credit cuts, the Lords have revolted over them, which is being seen as massively undemocratic, especially by David Cameron. They have also vetoed the Act over internet privacy. They are protecting the people's privacy on the internet. Caparo, the steel trade people, have cut another lot of jobs in the steel trade, and so far it's more than the planned Chinese nuclear power plant will give us. So it's not a good thing, really, that all these people losing jobs, because even though a few of them might gain jobs back in the power plant and maybe building it, there will be a few more as well, but the people who are going to run it, at least the people who will have permanent jobs, there will be far, far less than have lost their jobs at the moment. So that's quite sad. Another massively sad thing is the fact that the tragedy in the Sinai plane crash, which has happened today, killing 224 people. It's quite sad. In Duoma, Aleppo and Damascus, another lot of people have been killed, either by British or Russian attacks. The next section, remember the victims. 452 jobless people after the steel crisis. Families and loved ones of the 224 killed in Sinai plane crash, as well as the 91 people, including 17 children, killed in the attacks in Syria. Refugees drowned offshore of Greece, and all those suffering who are going to have to go back to Afghanistan in Germany. The families and loved ones of the people killed in the bin lorry crash in Glasgow, and obviously the people killed in the bin lorry crash. Okay, so the next segment, hope. Spend a bit more time on this one so that you can get the mood back up. Robert Downey Jr., the esteemed actor who was obviously facing massive drug addiction before his main role in Iron Man. He had been under a lot of treatment to kind of overcome the addiction. And he says to Daniel, 7-year-old, who is a sufferer of cystic fibrosis, who is under the weather, as in sad, not, well, obviously he is ill, but as in he's been sad very lately about his cystic fibrosis. He said to him, because of the fact that they posted a picture on Twitter, that his implants in his chest are like the arc reactor. And he's also shown him a picture of him in a tiger onesie saying, whenever I get sad I wear this, which obviously is probably something to do with his drug habit, because of the fact that that would keep him from going back to drugs. So there we go. Bill Richardson has recently, well, his family, in 1925, bought a 690-acre land lot in California, which is quite massive, and he's going to give that back to the indigenous Americans, which is quite brilliant. Mary Crotter, a person that I would like to call the real Wonder Woman, dresses as Wonder Woman and goes to homeless shelters to, 5 days a week to obviously help her out and stuff, and she's 103, which is quite brilliant. Kevin Adler, another brilliant person, in memoriam of his uncle who was homeless, he has set about to reunite 100 people to their families, 100 homeless people, because obviously if the families find them, they're more likely than not to give them home again, because that's what families do. The footballer Gary Neville, as long as his friends, have now installed extra facilities in the Stock Exchange building they're fitting out to be a homeless hotel for the winter, which is quite good, because that means, as well as not just being like a normal hostel for the homeless, just slightly posher, it's going to have proper showers and all that kind of stuff. So they'll be living in sort of luxury, which is good, because once in their life they'll be able to get something which they deserve. Music this week, there isn't that much, but let's go into it anyway. For the rock, Guy Garvey has finally released his full album, Counting the Squall. Kasabian cover of Ghostbusters and Addams Family Value themes have been released yesterday, in obviously to do with Halloween. Mogwai Central Belters has been released recently. Coheed and Cambry's Island, which is a prog rock piece, the only piece that isn't part of their massive story thing that they've been doing. Half Moon Run, Sun Leads Me On. The Neighbourhood Wiped Out, which a lot of people like. It's not really my style of music, because it's too, like, it's more like AM, as in Arctic Monkeys AM, the album. It's that kind of music. So if you like that, then you'll probably like them, so I'd say go check it out. The standout is a Dinosaur Pileup 1111, which I think is quite good. I really like the kind of upbeatness of it. Not really upbeat, but like groove. I like groove. It's a bit strange. Anyway, Pop Blossoms Charlemagne. Charlemagne obviously being the ancient king, the supposed creator of chivalry, at least a popularizer of chivalry. Adelaide's Hello has also been released. Jodie Abacus's Good Feeling and Halfway to the Mexico respective singles have been released. Pre-Bathing Culture's Pray for Rain has also been released. Lucas Graham's 7 Years was released a little bit ago, but it's still kind of recent, obviously. LV has released Return to the Moon, which I find pretty decent. I like it. The standout is John Grant's Grey Tickles and Black Pressure, which is quite... It's a bit funny, but also it's nice to listen to. It's a good album. It's a good album. He's done a lot of things recently with a lot of orchestras and that kind of thing. He's very good. Definitely say check his stuff out. We've got a few acts from hip hop this time. We've got Roots Maneuver, who have released Bleeds, which is alright. It's not bad. It's pretty good. It depends on what kind of rap you like, if you like it. Maverick Sabre's Inner Standing, which is also pretty good. Depends on which kind of rap you like, though. Again, Too Fresh's Torch, which reminds me a lot of the kind of deep hip hop, street hip hop kind of stuff. So if you like that kind of stuff, again, go check it out. But if not, you probably won't like it. That's the end of the video. I've not got any news stories for afterwards because there was nothing that funny or stupid this week. They were just kind of sad things. So, okay, back in. Oh yes, just a final word. The fact that it's Halloween means you all have to get better costumes than me, and my costume is pretty shitty. Although this isn't the exact costume, I am going to be wearing this terrible dressing gown which isn't very black, with a kind of Darth Maul mask, because I couldn't think of anything else in time. So, just have a happy Halloween, try not to think too hard about the shitty events going on in Syria, and have a nice day, really, overall. Okay, see ya.
I've got great tickles and black pressure.